Friendship. Friendship is a state of intimacy, mutual trust, enduring affection, and support between two people. Real friends will see your faults and still accept you for who you are. I've had a few friends. One, Loretta Lapine, is my second cousin. My grandfather, Charlie, and her mother, Annie, were brother and sister. Lapines lived 6 miles from town. They did not have a car. Neither did my family. Annie's husband, Alec, worked in the bush, but he was mostly known for not doing much work at all. Plus, he was fairly in love with the bottle. They lived across from a new country schoolhouse. Annie got a job as janitor of that school. She did this in addition to raising 10 children, growing a monster garden, and living off all the eggs, milk, pork, beef, and poultry they raised. In the 1950s, visiting relatives was a common socialization. My grandparents, who lived next door, had a car. On a Sunday afternoon, it would be a great thrill to be invited to accompany them for a drive that would end up at Lapine's, where Grandpa, who was known to be an avid storyteller, would find an audience. Loretta and I would be off creating our own adventures, always ending up home in time for all the plates full of wonderful homemade, homegrown food served at supper time. Their family used to pick tiny wild strawberries, make jam from rose hips, and store barrels of foraged hazelnuts. Life was all about food. To get enough, you grew your own. Auntie Annie made dozens of loaves of bread, as well as wonderful cakes and pies. A few times, I stayed overnight with Loretta. I could handle grace before meals, but I abhorred the rosary routine before bedtime. Breakfasts consisted of oatmeal and slabs of bread toasted over the wood-burning cook stove. Loretta and I would take the Shetland pony out for a bareback jaunt. While heading away from home, it would try to rub us off against the wooden fence. Loretta meted out some aggressive, rough treatment. When we finally turned around and headed back to the barn, there was no stopping this frisky pony. We traveled at a dead run, behinds bouncing, arms and legs flapping like a baby bird. One of Lapine's cows gave birth the same day Diefenbaker was elected, June 21st, 1957. That's what they named the calf, Diefenbaker. At school one morning in grade 7, Loretta told me her hands smelled peculiar. Did I recognize the smell? I sniffed her hands. Nothing I could identify. The next day she told me she realized what the smell was. She had milked the cows that morning and forgotten to wash her hands after shoveling out the manure. We erupted into gales of teenage laughter every time we looked at each other the remainder of that day. Loretta and I played on the same soccer team at school. I was center forward and she played on the wing. Our team played up and down the Okanagan Valley. She said, "I love playing soccer. You run and run like the wind, and then, even when you're dead tired, you run some more." We knew nothing of endorphins, but we thrived on the feelings. She and I worked together on a school project. We had to collect and name a certain number of leaves and plants. I knew none of them, but living farther out in the country with 6 older siblings, she knew all of them. I wonder if she realized I was just along for the ride on that project. She worked so hard at school to get average marks. I had a good memory, so I could remember things we were taught long enough to get them down on paper and get the good marks. Uncle Alec was a short French Canadian. Loretta was 5 feet 1 inch tall and weighed 100 pounds. She had a massive head of naturally curly, frizzy, wavy hair, which she hated. She couldn't follow any hairstyle of the day. The only style that worked for her was a very short cut. She liked my long, shiny, straight, nearly auburn hair. I thought I would like some of her waves. Once in a while, Loretta stayed overnight at my house. She loved bologna sandwiches on white McGavin's bread, which we took to school in our lunches. My mother didn't bake bread very often because we ate too much of it, and it would be gone in no time. We ate less of the store-bought bread. Loretta and I went down to the nearby corner store and bought a monstrous bag of Spanish peanuts. We proceeded to consume the entire bag. She ended up with a violent tummy ache and spent most of the night in the bathroom as the nuts passed on through. She remembers that we laughed a lot at my house, probably not this time. Somehow, making up rhymes, I managed to get lapine into potato peeling, which turned into spud. I nicknamed her Spud. It stuck. Everyone, even the physical education teacher at school, called her Spud. After high school graduation, she moved away because she was so angry with her father, who would earn some money, then disappear for days at a time. She left her family and never returned. When asked why her mother never left Alec, Annie's response was, "What should I do? Put 10 kids on my back and walk out the door?" That generation of women had limited choices. Loretta and I kept in touch for only a few years after high school. She lived in Portland, so I called and talked to her when I was passing through in 1980. Often, friendships change throughout life depending upon circumstances, activities, and location. Ours had waned. I contacted her again after publishing a version of this story in my memoir, Unfettered, in 2019. She loved it, saying I wrote her story. Our lives took different paths, but memories of our childhood friendship remain strong.